Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Ipshita Bansal from BPS Women's University, Sonipat, Haryana. Today we will be discussing about the module HRM and cross-cultural differences of the paper Strategic Human Resource Management. After completing this module, the students will be able to learn about the influence of culture in current business scenario, understand the impact of non-verbal communication in various cultures, gain insights on the models used to describe cross-cultural differences, discuss the issues and challenges related to cross-cultural management, and explore various steps managers should take to manage diverse cultures. A nation's culture involves a complete system of customs, habits, rules, values, and beliefs shared by a majority of the country's inhabitants. Cultural dilemmas arise when people of different cultures at the workplace form different views based on the fact that they belong to different cultures. Great deal of care must be exercised in dealing with people from foreign cultures. Non-verbal communication is a communication that occurs without the use of words. So, what are the types of non-verbal communications? These can be facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, touches and handshakes. In this picture, we see how the non-verbal communication is taking place. In the first picture, we see a lady standing with her legs crossed, which as per the experts suggest that she is not open to communicating, or it may also suggest that she is lying, the way she is putting her hand on her mouth. The next person we see is he is putting on goggles, which might say that he might be hiding something which he does not want the world to see in his eyes. The way he is keeping his leg seems menacing. In the third picture, we see a guy standing with square shoulders, which show his hostile attitude, and his arms are crossed. Again, he is not open to communication and may even be aggressive. In this manner, we see that body language, gestures and facial expressions can also say something which you do not want to say. So, it is what you do not say that counts many times in communications. Here it is a very important quote. It says, "I am the most spontaneous speaker in the world because every word, every gesture and every retort has been carefully rehearsed." Quote by George Bernard Shaw. This means that even when you want to communicate something with non-verbal cues, sometimes you have to even rehearse that beforehand, because people are seeing the way you walk, the way you gesture, the way you stand, your entire body language, and it communicates to the people. So, the verbal communication has to be complemented with non-verbal communication. Shows the importance of facial expressions. What does smiling at strangers mean? In America, it means that I am open to the idea. In Russia, it is considered impolite and strange. In Asia, it can express friendliness, joy, embarrassment as well as pain. In Scandinavia, it is considered as a weakness to show this facial expression. What are the interpretations of eye contact in various cultures? In Western culture, it shows confidence, attentiveness and honesty. Asian culture. It is considered rude and offensive if prolonged. In Eastern culture, women should not have eye contact with men as it suggests sexual interest. Staring is rude in almost all cultures. What does the gesture shown in this picture mean? In US it means okay, in Japan it means money, in France it signifies zero, in Brazil it is considered as a seductive sign to a woman and an insult to a man. Touches and handshakes and their interpretations. Handshakes are generally acceptable. Kissing on the cheek, patting on the shoulder, embraces or touching other body parts are not. Asians are more conservative in these types of non-verbal communication. Let's now understand the importance of cross-cultural HRM. It is important for two main reasons. First, diversity. An organization's success and competitiveness depends on its ability to embrace cultural diversity at workplace. Second, transformation. In the era of globalization, continuous transformation is essential for productivity and sustainability. Developing universally acceptable HR policies helps to manage workforce in a dynamic environment. Hofstede's model of organizational culture refers to the various ideologies, beliefs and practices of an organization which places it differently from others. The culture of any workplace decides how employees would interact with each other or with the external parties, and also decide their involvement in productive tasks. Greet Hofstede, also known as Hofstede, proposed that culture of the organization is affected by regional and national factors and eventually influence the behavior of employees in the organization. He said, in global economic integration of the world, the strategies of all companies in the world are focused on how to meet the largest market to most customers by products and services, while the study of different cultures and values is the key to success of such strategies. He surveyed more than 116,000 IBM employees in 40 countries about their work-related values and identified 5 factors which influence the culture of the workplace. Hofstede's model of organizational culture. He talks about various cultural dimensions starting from power distance, individualism, indulgence versus restraint, long term versus short term, masculinity versus femininity, tolerance of uncertainty. Let's understand them in detail. What is power distance? Power distance describes the extent to which a culture accepts inequalities in the distribution of power. It is often connected to centralization of power, leadership and decision making in companies. A high rating on power distance means that large inequalities of power and wealth exist and are tolerated in the culture. A low power distance rating characterizes societies that stress equality and opportunity. As per the scores collected by Professor Hofstede, Malaysia is one of the highest power distance countries and Austria is the lowest power distance countries. Second dimension is individualism versus collectivism. Individualistic culture is focused on one's own needs and values and relies on individual efforts. Relationships between people are given less importance. Collectivist culture, on the other hand, focuses on a strong social framework where people care for members in their group and are willing to sacrifice their own preferences for the group. United States scores the highest on individualism, whereas Guatemala scores the lowest. Third dimension is masculinity versus femininity. Masculinity describes the extent to which culture favors traditional masculine roles such as achievement, power, and control and competition. A feminine culture is one where care for others and quality of life is the sign of success. A high score in this dimension denotes masculinity and a low score denotes femininity. Slovakia is the highest masculine culture and Sweden is the highest feminine culture. The fourth dimension is uncertainty avoidance. Uncertainty avoidance refers to a culture where employees know how to respond to unusual, unforeseen, and unstructured situations. It deals with the tolerance level of the employees in both comfortable and uncomfortable situations. The extent to which the members of a culture feel threatened by ambiguous or unknown situations and have created beliefs that try to avoid uncertainty is reflected in the score on uncertainty avoidance. Greece scores highest in this dimension, whereas Singapore scores the lowest. The fifth dimension is long-term versus short-term orientation. People in a culture with long-term orientation are future-oriented and give importance to thrift, persistence, and tradition. In a short-term orientation, people value here and now. They accept change more readily and don't see commitment as impediments to change. Countries with long-term orientation score very high and countries with short-term orientation scored very low in this dimension. South Korea scored the highest and Puerto Rico scored the lowest in this dimension. The sixth dimension is indulgence versus restraint. Indulgence is defined as the degree to which it is acceptable for people to enjoy life, have fun, and fulfill natural human desires. Restraint is the extent to which gratification of basic human desires and people's behavior is controlled by social norms. In this slide, we see the Hofstede's dimension of culture on 100-point scale and what are its implications. Going towards 0 and means low and going towards 100 means high. With respect to power distance, if the power distance score is low, this means that it is a more egalitarian society. If the power distance score is high, going towards 100, it means that the society embraces hierarchy. With respect to individualism, if the score is low, then the society is collectivist, and if the score is high, the society is individualistic. With respect to feminine and masculine characteristics, if the score is low, the society is more feminine and nurturance is more important. If the score is high, the society have masculine traits and power is more important. With respect to uncertainty avoidance, if the score is low, the society is comfortable with ambiguity. If the score is high, the society is not comfortable with ambiguity and it creates anxiety. With respect to long-term orientation, if the score is low, then the society puts short-term goals first. If the score is high, the society puts long-term goals first. With respect to restraint and indulgent, if the score is low, The society feels that restraint is important and happiness can be bad. If the score is high, the society feels that indulgence is important and happiness is always good. Here we see the comparison between USA and India on six dimensions of culture given by Hofstede. With respect to power distance, the score of India, which is denoted by grey color, is 77 and of United States it is 40. So, power distance is more in India. With respect to individualism, as we can see, the score is high in United States. With respect to masculinity, again the score is high in United States. With respect to uncertainty avoidance, again in United States the score is high, which means that people are not anxious in face of uncertainty. With respect to long term orientation, the score is high for India, and with respect to indulgence, the score is high for United States. So, that is why it is said that United States have materialistic culture. Here we see the GLOBE study, that is Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness. Here 9 units of measurement or cultural dimensions of GLOBE study are shown. These are performance orientation, uncertainty avoidance, humane orientation, institutional collectivism, in-group collectivism, assertiveness, gender egalitarianism, future orientation and power distance. So, let us try to understand them in somewhat detail. Performance orientation, the degree to which a society encourages and rewards members for improved performance and excellence. Institutional collectivism is the degree to which organizational and societal practices encourage and reward collective distribution of resources and collective action. Humane orientation is the degree to which a society supports and rewards individuals for being altruistic, generous and kind to others. In group collectivism, the extent to which individuals express pride, loyalty and cohesiveness in their organizations or families. Future orientation shows the extent to which individuals engage in future oriented behaviors such as delaying gratification, planning and investing in the future. Power distance is the extent to which hierarchy is accepted and respected in the society. So, what are the issues and challenges related to cross-cultural management? Today, successful organizations require their leaders to fully understand the culturally diverse work atmosphere and work collaboratively with people from different cultural backgrounds carrying different values, ethos and business rules. However, acquiring cross-cultural skills is a challenging task and requires considerable time, training, experience, knowledge and awareness. Ignorance of such intercultural expertise results in miscommunication, mismanagement and ultimately leads to relationship disasters with the person as well as the country that he or she represents. It also adversely affects the business services and leads to project failures and increased competition. The challenges for HR professionals in this scenario are to look for ways to use cultural diversity as a powerful resource to increase productivity and develop strategies to meet the needs of the global business. HRM's key responsibilities include an ability to understand the interaction between cross-cultural factors and HRM and to capitalize on them. HR managers need to equip themselves with complete knowledge in this field and hence act as a channel in the organization to encourage cross-cultural communication. Cross-cultural management issues and challenges. The supervisors may find it hard to communicate effectively with their subordinates who belong to different cultures. Decision-making styles may not match, so subordinates may not give good suggestions due to perceived differences. Spirit of teamwork may be missing if the host team is not willing to work with a member from another culture. Managers may be perceived as rigid. Employees may be perceived as either stubborn or docile. Let's understand what is culture shock. Culture shock refers to the feeling of uncertainty and confusion that people experience when they come in contact with a new culture, when their actions and behavior that would work at their home country fail to yield desired result in the foreign environment, they enter into a state of dilemma. Culture shock. Culture shock refers to the feeling of uncertainty and confusion that people experience when they come in contact with a new culture, when their actions and behavior that would work at their home country fail to yield desired result in the foreign environment. They enter into a state of dilemma. Slide 26. This diagram shows the stages of culture shock. On the x-axis, we see time in the new country, and on the y-axis, we see emotional state. In the short term, the first phase is that of honeymoon phase, because the person in the new country feels like a tourist and is happy to be exploring the new culture. But with the passage of time, the persons feel alienated and goes into depressive stage. But again, when the time elapses more, adjustment starts, and after some time the acceptance of the new and different culture is ingrained in the person. This slide again shows the honeymoon phase. It is like being on a holiday in a different country. The culture is exciting as well as challenging. Their dreams and expectations about the future seem to be coming true. Second stage of culture shock, that is frustration or depressive phase. The realities of life, housing, employment and family become overwhelming. Many things do not go according to plan. Constant miscommunications and fatigue of not understanding gestures, signs and language of people cause frustration, and feeling of homesickness sets in. Third stage of culture shock is adjustment phase, when the person says, "I am fine." They try to surround themselves with people of their own culture. They start adjusting and learn to operate appropriately in the new environment. This is a phase of rapid learning. Fourth stage of culture shock, acceptance phase. The people now realize that complete understanding of the new environment is not necessary to function appropriately. They learn to operate in new culture while retaining their own cultural identity. Let's now understand how we can manage culturally diverse workforce. Managers need to possess cross-cultural competence to manage a culturally diverse workforce. They must be sensitive to the values and beliefs of different cultures and communicate effectively so as to get the best out of them. Managers can take help of the following cues while dealing with cross-cultural workforce. That is, be aware of the fact that cross-cultural barriers exist. Use straightforward language and speak clearly. Be sensitive to non-verbal communication. Managers find themselves working across cultures. They should clearly understand the similarities and differences between their home culture and the other nation's culture. Managers should use apt words without being verbose. They should clearly articulate their thoughts, keeping in mind cultural implications. Learning the language of the other country is an advantage and will lead to increased acceptance of the manager at workplace. Non-verbal communication varies across culture. Hence, managers have to be cautious while displaying any kind of non-verbal clues. So students, let's now summarize what we have studied in this module. Managers need to possess cross-cultural competence to manage a culturally diverse workforce. They must be sensitive to the values and beliefs of different cultures and communicate effectively so as to get the best out of them. Thank you.